Hi guys, welcome to another coffee and a chat. I got my coffee here. Got one of my jingle and mingle, one of my Christmas mugs because I need to do the dishes, but we're getting there. Had a lot of other things to do today. I don't know. It seems like anymore my days don't go like I have planned, but that's okay. At least they go. So today I've got a story I want to tell you, and I want to dedicate this story to let me see if I can, okay, I think we're okay, to my dear friend, Ginger. And she'll know why. So years ago, she and her husband and my first husband and I were probably on a ministry trip together. I can't remember exactly where we were going. I do remember we were driving late at night. We were in the car and everybody was telling all these stories. And so I had my story to tell. And it so impressed her and her husband, they actually wrote a song about it, but that will just remain with us for many reasons. But anyway, so Ginger, you already know which story this is, but I know that this is a funny memory for her. And I think it'll make her laugh, and I like to make Ginger laugh. So anyway, years ago, like many years ago, when I was a little girl, when I was 5, getting ready to go into kindergarten, it was the end of summer, and that's a whole nother story, but that's when I came to the realization that I was a sinner, no matter how much I tried to convince myself and the rest of the world that I wasn't. I was, and I needed Jesus, and so I had, asked my mom to pray with me, to ask him into my heart, and, and all of that, and there's a whole nother story to go with that, which I'm sure we'll have one day, and how I went through kindergarten with that one. Anyway, so then the next summer when I was 6 and I started the first grade, after people gave their hearts to Jesus, then they got baptized. So I told my mom I wanted to be baptized. And so she told me I needed to go forward at church when they gave the altar call and tell the pastor that that's what I wanted. So I went forward to tell him. Now, he was a little concerned about a 6-year-old really understanding. So he made arrangements for my mom and I to come in once a week and meet with him so we could talk about this and make sure I really understood, what baptism was, what I was doing, and all of that. And that really, I had all the right answers for him. And so he was like, okay, yeah, I'll baptize you. And he said, but, I want to do a little counseling before, and we talk about, what it is to grow as a Christian. So there was this one day, and this is what started the whole mess. This is what began my witnessing gone wrong career. Yeah. Okay, so he was telling me, and see, back in the old days, I think do they have, like 6 food groups or 8? I don't even know how many they have now. But back in the old days in health, they would teach us that there were 4 food groups. And if I remember right, it was fruits were 1, vegetables were 1, breads were 1, and proteins, which included dairy, was the 4th one. I think that's how it went. And fats were probably in the protein thing, even though they don't have protein. If anybody remembers how those 4 food groups were, put it in the comments, because it's kind of driving me nuts trying to remember what they were. But whatever. So he had said, how they tell you at school that there's 4 food groups, right? Because they used to teach nutrition from right away. So we always knew about those 4 food groups. And I said, yes. And he goes, well, it's kind of like there's 4 food groups spiritually. And just like you need something out of each one of those food groups every day for your physical health, you need something out of the 4 spiritual food groups every day for your spiritual health. So, okay, he had my attention because I wanted to be good at being a Christian. I wanted to do it right. And so he said, he goes, now the first thing would be prayer. You need to pray every day. Oh, it was... our pastor was Dr. Anderson. I was like, oh, Dr. Anderson, I've got that one down. I'm okay with that. I'm good because and here I was 6 years old. I'm like, I've been talking to Jesus since I was just a little girl. I love when kids do that. When I was really little. Anyway, I talk to him every day, and he's like, well, what kind of things do you talk to him about? Well, I ask him to take care of my mommy and my daddy and my brothers. And when I'm scared, I ask him to protect me. And I just talk to him about stuff. And, I tell him that I love him and how wonderful he is. And I really did, for a little kid, I did have that prayer thing was pretty good for being a 6-year-old. And so he was like, okay. And then he goes, well, the second thing is you need to read your Bible every day. Oh, I've got that one taken care of too, Dr. Anderson. My mommy taught me, the first book she taught me to read was the King James Bible, and I've been reading that since I was 4 years old. So a whole 2 years. And so, yeah, I read my Bible every day, and, because my mommy and daddy tell us to. And so I read at least one verse, and my daddy does devotions with us, and we read the Bible there. And so I've got that Bible thing down. We're okay too. And then he goes, okay. Now, the third thing is you need to have fellowship with other Christians every day. And I'm like, okay, well, what is that? Well, that is, that you spend time with other Christians, and, and you do things with them, and you're friends with them, or whatever, however he explained it to me. Oh yeah, Dr. Anderson, that is not a problem. I've got that one covered too. See, because my daddy, he's choir director here, and he leads singing and everything. And every time the church doors are open, we're here. That's what mommy and daddy say, is that every time they open those church doors, we're there, and we are. And then when we're not at church, if there isn't anything here, well, we're friends with everybody at church. And so we're always going to somebody's house, or they're coming to our house. And I play with the kids I play with all the time. They're from church. And so I've got that fellowship thing. I got that taken care of. Okay. Well, the fourth thing is you need to witness every day. I need to what? You need to witness. Well, okay, what's that? You need to tell other people about Jesus, see, so that they'll ask Jesus into their hearts, because that's what God wants us to do. Oh, and then he said, we call it evangelism. I'm like, what? That was a big word, new word for me. Might not have that one down. I'm going to have to talk to Jesus about it, and I'm going to have to read the Bible about it, and maybe have some fellowship with some other Christians about it, because I got to figure that one out. And so he was, I remember him and my mom smiling at each other, and, like, oh, isn't she cute? And so he, we went home for the day, and I'll tell you what, that was troubling me, because I didn't want to be failing God, and I didn't want to be missing something in my spiritual diet every day if I needed it. So I prayed on it, and I tried to find Bible verses about it, and I thought on it, and well, you know what? Pretty soon I came up with a pretty good evangelism plan. Yes, I did. So the very next day that I went to school, I implemented my new plan. This is the first time I ever got in trouble at school. I hardly ever got in trouble at school growing up. I was the good kid, but this one got me sent to the principal's office. Okay, so at recess time, when we went out of recess, I went up to one of the other kids, and I said, do you want to ask Jesus in your heart? And they were like, what are you talking about? No, I don't want to ask no Jesus in my heart. Go away, or let's play Foursquare. You want to go down the slide, but no, you need to ask Jesus in your heart. And they're just like, get away. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to do that. So I tackled them to the ground and held them down. We used to play that game, and you'd hold them down until, or usually it was me getting held down until you said uncle, and then that meant you gave up. Well, this was until you asked Jesus into your heart. So I tackled that first kid, held him down until you repeat after me. Until they repeated that prayer. And then I'm like, okay, welcome to the family of God. I let them up, and I went and found the next kid. So about by the third kid, one of the teachers that was on duty, or whoever used to watch us on the playground, I actually think it was parents that came. Anyway, they're like, Angie, what are you doing? Well, they need to ask Jesus in their heart, and they don't want to. So I'm holding them down because it's for their own good. And then as soon as they say that sinner's prayer, so I know they're okay, then I welcome them to the family, and I let them go. Yeah, you're going to need to come with me. And so she took me to the principal's office. Oh, I was terrified. See, my dad was a school teacher, and his thing was, you do not be bad at school. If you get in trouble at school, they have my blessing and permission to spank you, and then I'm spanking you again when you get home. And I'd already, when you started the first grade, the older kids already had told all us little kids that the principal had a spanking machine in his closet. So I remember sitting up on a big, heavy wooden chair, and my feet kind of sticking out in front of me because I wasn't even big enough for my knees to reach the end and go down, and looking over, because there was a closet door to my left, and looking over there thinking, is that where he keeps the spanking machine? Is this what's going to happen to me? Well, I can't remember what his name was. I think Mr. Caldwell or something. My dad remembered his name for the longest time because both of them had the same first name. I know his first name was Ernie, but I wasn't allowed to call him that. Anyway, the principal, he said, okay, so Angie, because this is a little town, everybody knew everybody. Now, I've been told that you're tackling kids and beating them up on the playground. Is that true? Well, I'm not really beating them up. I'm just tackling them and holding them down because of my spiritual diet. And he's like, your spiritual diet? Yes, Dr. Anderson said I need to pray every day, and I do. And I need to read my Bible every day, and I do. And I need to have fellowship every day, and I do. But I also am supposed to have other people know Jesus and have him ask them into their heart. I'm supposed to tell them to do that. And so, well, that's what I'm doing. And they keep telling me no. And, and if they don't do it, they're going to go to hell. So I've got to do this. And then they'll say the prayer, and then I let them up. It's okay. And I remember looking at him thinking, it looks like he's trying not to laugh, but, and I'm kind of concerned about this. And am I going to get in trouble? So he goes, okay, Angie. Well, your heart's in the right place and your motives are good. Your method needs some help. And so he had a little chat with me and said that I needed to talk to Dr. Anderson more about this because he was sure that was not what Dr. Anderson meant. And, and that you can't make people say a sinner's prayer and then they're going to be saved. It doesn't work that way. And so, then I was like, am I in trouble? He's like, no. As long as you promise not to tackle any more kids on the playground. Yes, sir. And so I was let go. And next thing I know, my mom and I are going to see Dr. Anderson again. And he was trying to help me find better methods for my evangelism plan. Yeah. So I wanted to tell you the story for two reasons. One, I wanted to make Ginger laugh and remind her, that's right, girl. I've got my sordid past too. But the other thing is that sometimes we don't always have the best methods for sharing Christ with people. And really what I see as I read the word, yes, we share the gospel. We let people know that Jesus is the way and that he died for their sins. But the most important way of witnessing is through the life we live. Not putting on some kind of a life to look a certain way, but purely, honestly, legitimately living out our faith. And that's, I've not always used the best methods, obviously. But that is my heart now. I, as an old woman now, for real, I'm not just an old woman of 6. I'm well past that. More than 10 times that. But now I know that if I don't live out my faith, and that means even when I fail, even when I don't get it right, even when I'm less than what I should be, is being able to own that and admit that, because we all struggle with our flesh. And even that is important. It's really important to try not to have all that fleshly struggle. And I think that that's more important to me now than it's ever been before. But it's also that living people, our life in front of people with Christ and loving them, not trying to push something down their throat, not tackling them until they say a prayer we want them to say. Because let me just give you another little nugget of truth here. There's no sinner's prayer in the Bible that you repeat and that's going to save you. A lot of people say sinner's prayer for fire insurance because they don't want to go to hell, but they never have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And if you're in the Word like you should be, then you will see that it's not about religion and doing certain things, but it's about relationship. And the things that we do for God are a result of our love for Him, not us doing those things to try to gain His love for us, because we already have His love. So I try to remember that God's never gone out and beat me